Please state your name for the court, spell your last name for the record.
My name is J.D. Lorian. Lorian is Lorean.
And what do you do for a living, Ms. Lauren?
Well, for the past 5 years, I've been the owner and chief auditor for my company, Graylord Strategies Incorporated, which consults with federal, state, and local police agency on proper undercover protocol, as well as other police investigations, strategies, and techniques.
So what education do you have that allows you to hold that position?
I have my Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Statistics from Johns Hopkins University, a Juris Doctor from the University of Virginia School of Law, and a Master's of Law from Harvard Law School.
And what experience do you have in the field of undercover operations?
Well, after receiving my Master's of Law, I worked with the White Collar Crime Division of the FBI for 25 years as both an investigator and senior agent. During this time, I was a part of hundreds of other undercover operations involving bribery, gambling, drug trafficking, insider trading, and extortion. I was later involved in implementing the Attorney General's guidelines on undercover operations and was a witness in the congressional hearings that followed.
What qualifications do you have in the field of undercover operations?
I'm licensed to practice law in the state of Maryland and the Commonwealth of Virginia, as well as in the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. I'm also familiar with the Attorney General guidelines on undercover operations.
So how are you involved in today's case?
I was retained for two purposes. The first, to provide an expert opinion about the procedures used by the Midland State Police Department's investigation that led to the arrest of Avery Bancroft and Chase Covington on bribery charges, and the second, to provide an expert opinion about Mickey Keenan's investigation in light of our 2014 Midland State Police Department undercover guidelines audit.
Did you have sufficient facts and data in today's case?
I did, yes.
And what were those facts and data?
I received all the documents about the current bribery charges via public record requests with Midland State Police Department, and from the Defense Counsel, I obtained the audio files and transcripts of the recorded conversations between Keenan, Bancroft, and Hyde, as well as a wiretapped conversation among Bancroft and Covington. At the request of Defense Counsel, I also examined MSPD's procedures for evidence collecting, interrogation, and officer training in this case.
Were those the only facts and data that you relied upon?
No, I also obtained the affidavit reports from Mickey Keenan, Corey Hyde, Pat Sikorsky from Defense Counsel, as well as reviewed the email correspondence among Corey Hyde, Mickey Keenan, Avery Bancroft, and Chase Covington.
Did you use reliable principles and methods as well?
I did, yes.
And what were those principles and methods?
The principles and methods I used were the techniques for detecting deception, documentation, and completion of witness and subject statements, as well as methods and procedures for analysis of various types of evidence.
Did you apply those principles and methods reliably to the facts and data of today's case?
I did, yes.
To begin, Ms. Lauren, what were the specific guidelines that you mentioned before that you focused on for today's case?
I began my investigation by reviewing Graylord Strategies recommendations in our 2014 audit report of administration guidelines for undercover operations, and they were then assessed whether or not Mickey Keenan's undercover investigation was compliant with these guidelines and practices in this field.
So in your assessment of Mickey Keenan's undercover investigation, was it compliant with the guidelines and practices?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm sorry, how did you review whether or not these guidelines were followed by Mickey Keenan?
That's a great question. In reviewing Mickey Keenan's affidavit, I discovered that it was Mickey Keenan who first contacted Bancroft's executive assistant, Corey Hyde. They set up a meeting, and it was during this time that Keenan recruited Mr. Hyde to assist with Keenan's investigation. In the following months, when Hyde began showing signs of no longer wanting to participate in Keenan's schemes, Keenan blackmailed Hyde into cooperation. They continued their work together, which allowed Keenan to set the meeting with Bancroft on March 31st, 2015.
And what was so significant about that meeting?
Well, it was in reviewing Corey Hyde's affidavit that I found it was Keenan who mentioned the bribe to Bancroft. This directly contradicts the Attorney General's guidelines for undercover operations specifically improper execution of the undercover operation that establishes a defense to prosecution, such as entrapment or outrageous government conduct.
Now, Ms. Lauren, while reviewing Keenan and Hyde's affidavits, did you find anything else that caught your eye?
Yes, I also found several instances there were guidelines of the undercover operations that were not followed.
And specifically, what instances did you see?
I recall Keenan's affidavit on the meeting on April 13th. Keenan handed Bancroft a pen and a napkin 2 times. The first time, Bancroft ignores it, but when Keenan handed Bancroft the napkin a second time, Keenan told Bancroft, "It's always about the money." In another instance, I reviewed what was an email sent by Keenan asking Mr. Hyde to suggest to Mr. Bancroft that he needed to sweeten the pot.
Would you recognize that email here in court today?
I would.
Permission to approach opposing counsel with what has been marked as Defense A.
Granted.
I'd like to object to
Commission-
hearsay.
Would you like me to respond? We would strictly like to only be speaking about the Mickey Keenan portion of this email. And it falls under party opponent, which is not hearsay.
Who's the party opponent?
Mickey Keenan.
Is Mickey Keenan on trial?
He's part of the trial now.
I'm asking you directly, is Mickey Keenan the individual who is bringing forth prosecution?
Yes.
So why is his name not on the actual complaint? You have a copy of the complaint?
I believe so, yeah.
Who's listed as your opposition on the complaint? Look at any of your filings, anything that you filed here with the court today. Where's Mickey Keenan's name? As far as, look at the caption, where's Mickey Keenan's name? So who's the party?
I did not see it.
So what,
It failed to put it on.
well, no, it's not even supposed to put on there, is that this is a criminal case. That means that the state is the party.
Okay.
So that means that this individual is not a party for purposes of hearsay because,
He's not.
yeah, he's not the state. So what would be your response to the objection to hearsay?
This would fall under, confer with co-counsel for a second.
Every taxpayer is a party. All right, so this person's an expert witness, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that expert witness, did the expert witness read that?
Yes, Your
The
Honor.
expert
She was
witness
provided
used
with the
that.
document.
They use that to make their opinion.
Yes.
And are you asking that person about something in there to flesh out why that person came up with their opinion?
Yes.
Then it's used for that purpose, it's not for the truth of the matter asserted, but actually to go towards this expert's opinion.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any objection to that aspect of it being used for that purpose?
No, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
May I approach the witness with the same?
Yes, ma'am.
With the fence, or with the,
Yeah, wait.
what does it specifically say on there regarding Keenan's command towards Hyde?
Which part do you want me to read? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Specifically second paragraph, 4 lines, 3 lines down.
We can't, Avery should do something to sweeten the pot. It is very important it comes from you and not me.
Thank you. Defense moves to admit defense A into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
So admitted.
Is there anything else you found while looking at Keenan's undercover operation?
Yes, I was actually unable to locate any significant information regarding Mickey Keenan's training. Contrary to the undercover guidelines, no documents regarding Keenan's training on documenting undercover operations, implementing the READ technique, or training how to properly handle situations in order to avoid the inducement of criminal activity in otherwise innocent parties.
So to be clear, did you find any evidence of Mr. Keenan's training?
No, I was not.
Ms. Lauren, you said you came to 2 conclusions in CA's case.
I did.
What was your first conclusion?
My first conclusion is that the techniques used by Keenan raised serious concerns that the guidelines were not followed completely and that the criminal activity that was reported was induced by Keenan. Lack of formal training in the READ technique would account for Keenan's actions. And as I could find no documentation on any of Mr. Keenan's training, it is clear that this played a major role in the violation of proper undercover operation procedures.
And what was your second conclusion?
My second conclusion was that Keenan's investigation was compliant as far as Keenan receiving authorization from Chief Kimball prior to starting the operation. However, while Mickey Keenan's affidavit references rumors about Mr. Bancroft, it doesn't properly document character traits that would prove Bancroft's predisposition to commit criminal acts.
Thank you, Ms. Lauren. I have no further questions, Your Honor.